everyone, thank you for joining us today and welcome to our live Q&A session, which is going to be all about what it's like to live in Newcastle. My name's Molly and I'm a recent graduate of Newcastle University, and I'm joined today by a panel of students who are going to answer some questions for you. So I'll ask them to introduce themselves before we start, and we'll start with Dan.
Yeah, hi guys, my name's Dan and I'm a recent undergraduate of Newcastle University. I studied English language for 3 years and I'm originally from Carlisle in the northwest of England. I came to Newcastle because it is so close to Carlisle and because it's a fantastic city and it's got everything I need as well.
Great, thank you Dan. Emma?
Hello, I'm Emma. I'm a PhD student here at the Faculty of Medical Sciences. I'm doing clinical pharmacology and I've been an MRes student in the past. Back in 2014, I did the MRes in medical genetics. I chose to be in Newcastle because of the course. I really liked the structure of the course in the MRes, and I continued for the PhD. I'm in the second year now.
Yeah, great, thank you. Rashmi?
Hi, I'm Rashmi and I'm from India. I'm doing PhD in the Faculty of Medical Sciences as well, and as Emma did, we both were on the same MRes course. The main motivation for me to join Newcastle University was the various areas of research going on here, and I could totally find the project that I was interested in. So that was my main motivation for Newcastle.
Great, thank you. And Siti?
Hi everyone, my name is Siti and from Singapore. I'm a final year PhD student in speech and language sciences, and I chose to come to Newcastle University because I have a great supervisor here whose research interests matched mine, and I wanted to get the right research training and skills for my career path as a researcher/academic. So yeah.
Great, thank you. So today we've got a range of questions that were frequently asked by prospective students, and we're going to work through those one at a time with the student panel. You can also ask us any questions that you have, and how you do that depends on how you're watching us. So if you're watching us live on YouTube, if you use the live chat, which is to the right of this video, you will need to sign into an account to be able to post a question, and we'll get to your questions throughout the session. If you are watching us on the PG Cafe website, you can use the Discuss platform, which is at the very bottom of the page that you're currently on, and you can ask us your questions that way as well. So we'll try and answer everything in the time that we've got, and we'll start with some questions about food, which is something that we get asked a lot about, particularly from you guys who are coming from overseas. So we'll start with where you guys usually shop for food. So if we can ask Emma to tell us a little bit about that.
So I normally buy food in supermarkets. I pick Tesco and Asda mainly because they're close where I live, and I find really good offers there. They have a really huge variety of products to choose from, and sometimes they bring food from home, which is great for me. So they've got a really wide range of choices. I also pick my grocery shopping from either small shops, mainly in Fenham here in Newcastle. There's a small family-run grocery shop there, and they have really good quality. And also I choose Granger Market if possible, mainly on Saturdays. They've got really, really good offers and really fresh vegetables all the time.
Great, thank you. Rashmi?
Yes, for me it's the same. I do most of my shopping from Tesco. So it's really very close to my place, and so I try to plan up all my meals so that I can just go at once and get all the shopping done. So so I can take advantage of all the multi-buy discounts that they have and everything. I do quite a lot of times the fruits and vegetables we get it cheaper and fresher in Granger Market, as you said. And also to get my Indian groceries and stuff, there are quite a lot of stores like Najib and Medina in Fenham. So they really do a lot of Indian groceries and a lot of other Asian as well, Asian groceries as well. So yeah, so that's a good place for me to shop.
Great, thank you Rashmi. And as Rashmi mentioned there are quite often offers and buy one get one free and things in British supermarkets, which are great to watch out for. And also another tip that a lot of students seem to take advantage of is going into the supermarkets late at night, because you tend to find products that have yellow stickers on them, and they massively reduce the price of these products because they're about to go out of date. So you often see lots of students crowding around the fridges sort of 10, 11 o'clock at night to get those last minute bargains.
I think for Marks and Spencer it's around 5 o'clock or
Right.
something, and they have really really good stuff in there. And I don't even know why they take it so down, because it's not even gonna go out of there for the next
Yeah.
3-4 days.
Yeah, so it's so great to buy.
Yeah.
So you guys mentioned briefly buying food from home. City, you're from
Yeah.
Singapore. How do you
Yeah.
manage to find food that suits your taste?
Yeah, so there are two Asian food stores right in the city centre. One is called Hayu, one is called Sang, and then so it's great. They have stuff from Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Singapore, and so on. So I buy a lot of my spices there and a lot of instant sauce packets, so that way you can easily cook all the stuff from back home.
Yeah.
And also I buy halal meat right in Phenom. There are actually, I'm so surprised to see like 3-4 food stores that sell halal meat in Phenom. So that was great for me, so many options. And even if you don't want to cook, there's easily a lot of halal options right in the city center itself. So a lot of restaurants have halal meat options, so you don't have to cook. So it's such a great city for me. Yeah.
Great. So what do you think of the food in the UK? What did you think of it when you first arrived, and have you adapted to the sort of the British cuisine? Emma?
So it was a shock for me, to be honest, because I come from a Mediterranean country where we eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, and here the problem was that it was a bit expensive for what I was expecting. I had never been to the UK before, so that's why it was a bit of shock for me. But the good thing about Newcastle, and generally in the UK, you can find all kind of different cuisines and all type of different food. So the time that I started exploring the city, I found out so many Italian restaurants, so many different kinds of traditional kitchens around, like Indian, Asian. So I had to try a lot of them because I hadn't tried before. And there are also a few Greek restaurants where we usually go with other Greek friends just to celebrate things, national holidays and things like that. So it's not really difficult for me, to be honest. I do cook a lot, and the fact that I can find at supermarkets things or food from back home, like feta and things like that, is really, really good because I can use them and cook myself and take food at work as well in the university.
Great, thank you. So you mentioned some restaurants there. Dan, do you have any recommendations for restaurants that you like in the city?
Yeah, well, there's in Jesmond in the north of Newcastle, where all the students, and it's quite an affluent area of Newcastle as well. There's this little pub called the Collingwood Arms. I don't know if anyone's been there. It's really cool. It's got like a Latin, it's like a Latin pub, and they do loads of burgers and loads of espanadas and stuff like that as well. They've also got really nice pints on tap. But there's all sorts of places you can go. Every street you walk down in Newcastle, there'll always be somewhere to go and grab a coffee or grab something to eat, and it's not too expensive as well. So there's plenty of places to go all the time.
Great. And what about city? Do you have any recommendations for restaurants that you like in the city?
Like I said, there are plenty of halal options. So one of my favorite is actually just to order delivery from JJ's Cafe. They sell Malaysian Chinese food or Malaysian Thai food, and then so I usually order delivery from them. Chow Praya is also a great Thai restaurant that sells halal options. Chow Praya might be a bit pricey in terms of the price range, so it's good to get the set lunches or set dinners, so we get 2 course for about £10. So those are, if you always look out for those deals, you end up saving more money and getting more food. So, yeah.
Always good. And I think it's quite important to note that when you're on campus, you're only about a 2-minute walk from the city centre. So a lot of the restaurants that we're talking about are really close to campus. So if you wanted to go for lunch or for dinner, it's not that far at all to go, and you can easily walk between lectures to small supermarkets and things like that. So everything's really accessible and easy to find.
Oh yeah, and if I could add on one
Yeah,
thing,
of
is
course.
that one thing I forgot is that our own university, Into has halal options as well, and it's really cheap. For example, £4 for an entire meal. So even if you don't want to go out of the university, we do have halal options both at the Into as well as at the library, the old library building. They also have halal options as well. So those are great options if for Muslims. Yeah.
Great, good to know, thank you. So the Into Centre is actually just a 2-minute walk along the main road from campus, and that's where a lot of international students come when they first arrive, which you guys may well be doing, to take language courses and graduate diplomas and things like that. And the restaurant in there is probably the most international on campus, and it serves sort of food from a range of different international cuisines. So if you are missing something from home while you're on campus, that's probably one of the best places to head for lunch. Would you guys say that it's expensive to eat out in the city? We've talked about the price of shopping, but what about for sort of lunch or dinner? What would you say, Dan?
Not really. I mean, there's loads of chains and stuff like that which you can get from, which are the same prices wherever you go in the UK. Some of the local restaurants, I mean, you can get a meal and maybe 2 drinks for under £20. I don't know about your guys' experiences, but I don't think I've ever had a night out where I spent more than £25. I've got everything that I need there as well. Lunchtime, again, there's loads of chains and stuff like that. There's some nice cafes and stuff that you can go to if you'd like to as well, but nowhere's really that expensive. It's not like the south of England, which is quite expensive, because a lot of people live down there. This area up here is quite quiet compared to down there, so the prices go down as well. So.
Great, thank you. And Rashmi, you're a vegetarian.
Oh, yes.
If you're eating out in the city, do you find it quite easy to find food for yourself?
To be honest, I was really worried when I was first coming, because that I really thought that I wouldn't be able to eat out as much or something, because only before I came here I actually decided I should start cooking. But I was really surprised, like there are so many vegetarian options, and depends on the kind of restaurant you're going to, but there are really a lot of vegetarian options in any restaurant you go to. And also if there is your special requirement, you can ask them to make anything vegetarian and they do it, which is, I mean, I really didn't expect. So the key is now to just ask, and they will probably like cater to any of the dietary requirements, to be honest, like even if you're vegan or allergic to something, and they just take a note of that and tailor your food according to your needs, which is good.
Great, thank you. So we're getting quite a lot of questions coming in about the cost of living and accommodation in the city. So Rianne asked what the average cost of rent is in the city. Can you all share your experiences of what you've paid in private and university accommodation? Maybe start with Emma.
So in my first year I was living in university accommodation, and I think it cost me about 3,500 pounds per year for a 51-week contract. So it wasn't really expensive for me when I came here, and now I'm living in private accommodation, and again it's in Sandford area, where next to Jesmond, so it's really, really lively and really popular area for students, and I don't pay very much. I think it's really cheap, to be honest. My rent at the moment is $5.25 per month, but I live with my boyfriend, so we're divided by 2, so it's like very, very, very cheap compared to other places.
And what about you, Dan, an undergrad?
So my first year I lived in Henderson Hall, which isn't even a student accommodation anymore, sadly. There I was paying about £65 a week, something like that, so it was really, really cheap for your first year. When you go down to Manchester and London, all these different places, you can pay as much as £130 per week minimum, but up here is really cheap to live. Second year I lived in Jesmond, which went up, the price went up a little bit, but that's because it's such a student area, so it's quite lively and things like Emma was saying. Then third year I lived in an area called Heaton, and then the price went down there as well. So it's really central, it's got all the student things that you want. Loads of students live there as well, but it was about £75 per week, so it was a lot cheaper. But wherever you go, you're going to get high quality accommodation for not much price as well. So.
Okay, thank you. And what about you girls?
I live at the moment I live in The View. It's a private student accommodation, and I have, like, ever since I've come, I've lived in a studio, which and it's really centrally located. So before this I lived in St James's Pond, which was the building right next to The View, and in both the places the rent was around £140 per week, so which comes about £600 a month. But it's really good location, that's what you're paying for. And studios are like contained mini apartments, so you have your kitchen and ensuite rooms together, so I prefer that.
Yeah, great. And just something that you just mentioned there about ensuite, we had a question about what an ensuite room was, and an ensuite room basically means that you have your own bathroom. So in a lot of student accommodation there'll be a shared bathroom which you may share with 4 or 5 flatmates. If you have an ensuite accommodation, which can be a little bit more expensive, but it means you've got your own private bathroom, so if that's something that's really important to you, then I would definitely advise that that's the kind of accommodation that you go for. And City, what about your cost of rent?
I actually live in the same place. I live in the
do you?
Yeah, but before that I lived in St James Point.
Yeah.
which I thought similar pricing because it
Yeah.
was in the studio as well. So if you're a postgrad student, what you've got to ask is whether you'll be sharing the same building with undergrads. Some people might not like that because of the noise level and so on. So it's good to ask these questions. For example, who will your neighbours be,
Yeah.
and what facilities there are in that building and so on.
Yeah, great, thank you. So we mentioned a couple of different student areas there, and I thought I'd tell you a little bit about where they are in relation to campus. So Emma lives in Sandyford currently, which is about a 10-minute walk, 10-15 minutes
Yeah,
from
15 minutes
campus.
walk and about 7 to 10 minutes cycle.
Cycle.
So it's really, really close.
Yeah, so that's probably one of the closest areas that isn't the city centre to live in. Heaton is a little bit further afield, but you can get there either on foot if you'd like, or on the metro, or by cycling. How long on the metro would you say it would take?
Well, the newest one's probably, I can't remember what it's called.
Is it Chillingham Road?
Chillingham Road. It would take about maybe 5-7 minutes, something like that journey. Walking, it would take about 20-25 minutes. Cycling would probably take about 10-15 minutes as well, so that's still quite
Yeah,
close.
great. And the girls mentioned some accommodations that are right actually next to our business school, which is maximum 10-minute walk from the main campus. And they are really modern, brand new accommodations, so if you're looking for something that's a bit more modern, that's probably advisable. We're getting some questions about the best places to live if you've got children, and I think maybe somebody recommended some places that might be best for families. Was it you, Emma?
I think all areas can fit families, but I think the best ones might be Jesmond again, which has Jesmond D next to it, so it's very good for children to go for a walk on Saturday morning, for example. And they've got schools all around the area. Sandyford is also good. Even Gateshead, if you really want something much cheaper and a really big house with garden. So it really depends on the needs that you want to cover and whether the husband or the wife works in similar places, really. But Heaton is also good. It's good anywhere, apart from the city centre, I'd say.
Yeah.
Anyway, can I add,
Yeah,
like,
of course.
some of the student accommodation, university student accommodations are, they also offer family accommodation. I think it's called Boston Court.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is family friendly, and so there are like mini apartments which have like 2 rooms or something, and very cheap. Yeah, I think it's also near the Sandyford area though. Yeah.
Thank you. So somebody's asked the question, when is the deadline to apply for accommodation? Usually this is at the end of June, and what we normally have to do is, if your course requires one, you need to obviously accept your offer, pay your deposit for accommodation, and then you will be guaranteed a place. If you are a postgraduate, you'll be guaranteed a place in university accommodation for the first year of your studies. I'm not sure what the process is for undergraduate, Dan.
I think it's about the same.
About the same.
You can start applying for it whenever you want, as soon as you've got your offer. I think the deadline again is the end of June. It's around that time. You don't really want to miss that deadline as well. You will still get accommodation, but that deadline is quite a strict deadline, so you do have to meet it as well, unless you want to live somewhere else.
Can I add
Of course.
something about student accommodations? Like, a lot of student accommodations are now offering Skype viewings for like international students who can't actually come in, which I find like really, really helpful, because people are always scared if it's gonna actually come out like how it looks in the pictures. And if there is if you visit the website and there is an option, I'd highly recommend to get one Skype viewing.
Great, thank you. That's really good advice. Somebody's asked, how is the best way to go about finding private accommodation? So anybody?
Yeah, so the way I went was through agencies. I found a few agencies that didn't actually require a cost for finding accommodation, as long as you were available to go and view the accommodation at specific times. But there are others that do charge a cost for the contract that you have to sign and some other kind of charges. But it's roughly around £300-400. So if you share a flat, for example, it's about 200 per person in a 2-bedroom flat. But I went through agencies and they gave me really good quality of flats. The best quality was around Jesmond and Sandyford. I didn't quite like the quality of the ones I viewed in the city centre because they were a bit smaller, but that really varies and depends on what time you're here and what time you're looking for accommodation. But there's all different qualities out there. If you're searching for something really specific and really new, you can find it. If you're looking for something really cheap, you can also find it. And cheap and good quality can also go together, which is my case at the moment. So I'm really happy with that.
Great.
The university also supports students in finding private accommodation through the service of accommodation. So if you're looking for something private because you come with family, you might not want to experience the student halls, student accommodation, you can also get support for that through the university.
Great, thank you. So before we move on, if we could just ask the brief question from Redwanner, who's asked what the general cost of utility bills are on top of your rent. Maybe City, if you could shed some light.
Yeah, the great thing about living in private student accommodation, a lot of these accommodations, they actually have everything all inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to worry about the cost of internet, electricity, heating, everything's all included in the rent.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a big plus for me when I chose what kind of accommodation I wanted to live in.
Yeah.
So, but I do know for some people they pay about 150 to 200 pounds in terms of electricity, heating, and internet. And all of those are separate bills.
Mm-hmm.
So I just didn't want to handle with the paperwork and paying.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Great, thank you. Dan, you live in private accommodation this year. What's your experience of how much utilities tend to cost?
Well, at the moment I'm just sharing with another person.
Yeah.
But when I was a student, I was maybe paying about £100 a month in utility bills, and that was including gas, electric, water, Wi-Fi, everything that we needed. It goes up a little bit when you live with just one more person. When it's split between like 7 or 8 of you, that's when it gets cheaper. Well, obviously when you live in halls, like the guys have just said, everything's included, so you don't have to worry about these kind of things. So you can leave your heating on, you can use as much water as you want to if you want to. Quite a lot of students have their heating on, but also have their windows open at the same time, just because they don't have to pay for it. So if you get too hot, you can just open the window. Yeah, but like I said, it's not that expensive, and wherever you go in the UK, it's going to be the same price as well, normally anyways.
Great, thank you. So just before we move on from this particular topic, we just had a question about whether you need to pay up front for university accommodation, and the answer is no. You'll just need to pay a £500 deposit when you first sign up for your accommodation, and then you can pay based on a tenancy agreement. It's normally in instalments.
Yes,
Yeah.
I had 4 installments.
Four
myself,
instalments
yeah.
across the year, so you don't need to pay up front, not at all.
Yeah, just one thing to add on is that for some accommodations, if you pay the full amount up front, you get about 2% discount.
Right.
So you just keep in mind that some accommodations do offer discounts if you pay everything up front.
Yeah.
And for some accommodations, they require international students to have a UK guarantor if they want to pay in installments.
Right.
So some accommodations do provide those UK guarantors. Some require you to provide a UK guarantor yourself. So
Mhm.
just keep in mind about these issues when you're choosing an accommodation.
Great, thank you. So, let's talk a little bit about travelling around the city. That seems to be a popular topic from our viewers today. So somebody has asked how the best way to travel on public transport from Sunderland to Newcastle. And I guess we would all maybe recommend the metro as one great way of travelling around. It would probably take about 30 minutes on the metro from the city centre of Newcastle to the city centre of Sunderland, and there's actually a metro station over the road from the campus. If you could see out this window, you could see it right now, so it's really convenient to do. If you prefer not to use the metro, we do have a great bus service as well. Again, the bus station is over the road. I'm not familiar with bus times and numbers, but it's all easily accessible online, particularly a website called nexus.co.uk, which is NEXUS, and that'll tell you all about public transport in the Newcastle area. So somebody's asked, again, Redwanner has asked if it's good to buy a bike for commuting purposes, and I know Emma, you cycle quite a lot in the city.
I do, yes. I chose cycling because it's really, really flexible and it's easy around the city because there are cycle lanes all over the place, all over the city centre and outside the city centre, so it's really, really convenient. I would recommend you buy a bike if you want to keep it for a long time. So buy a brand new bike so that you make sure you have a good quality bike, a safe bike, and you've got some kind of guarantee if something goes wrong. But I would recommend it for just 1 year because it can get quite expensive. For example, £150 up to 200 for a very good bike. For a fairly good bike, maybe have even more expensive ones if you like, and depending on how long distances and what kind of terrains you want to cycle to. But I wouldn't recommend you buy a brand new bike for just 1 year here. Although you have the option of selling it when you leave Newcastle, if you leave Newcastle at some point, because there's a high chance you might stay here forever. I didn't actually buy a brand new bike when I first came here. I bought a second-hand bike from a charity shop, which was not expensive at all. It was about £60. I had to run some maintenance. It cost me about £20 more, but it was fairly cheap for the time I bought it. And now I'm thinking of buy a brand new bike myself so that I can keep it for the next 2 years. I'm going to be here for the rest of my PhD.
Great, thank you, Emma. So Lena has just asked, we've been talking about the metro a little bit, and she's asked whether it's similar to the London Underground. Yes, it is. That's probably the closest thing I could compare it to. However,
Overground?
Probably
the overground.
Yeah,
in some
so
cases.
in some cases, basically the only time that the metro goes underground is in the city centre of Newcastle. The rest of the time you will be above ground, and the trains are a little bit wider, and there are much fewer of them than the London Underground. It's nowhere near as complex a system, but in the city centre of Newcastle you do go underground to access it, but then for the most part it's just like a normal train, really. So thank you for that question.
But I think it's much better.
Yes, I agree.
It's much better because you have a lot more space. I don't know, it's probably because of my agoraphobia. I feel a bit weird in the London Metro and the London Tube. Newcastle Metro is much better in terms of quality.
I agree. So let's talk about, we've talked about the metro and cycling. Does anybody else use any other forms of transport in the city? Dan, how do you tend to get to work, or how did you travel as a student?
Well, I use the metro as well. I used to cycle in just like Emma, but my bike was a little bit more expensive. Mine was £400, but I paid on finance, so I paid monthly, which was really easy. I also got a car as well. And driving in Newcastle is really simple compared to the big cities in the UK. It's a bit like a village up here compared to Manchester and Liverpool and London and stuff like that. It's a lot more quieter on the roads. It's a lot more easier to drive. There is quite a few bus lanes, but you expect that in a big city. Sometimes I get the bus as well. Like I said about the bus routes are really good in Newcastle. You can get the bus to my house, which is about 3 miles out of Newcastle, for about £2.60, something like that. So it's not that expensive. And there's different zones on the metro as well. I don't know if you mentioned, but there's different zones. So there's A, B and C. Sunderland will be C, and then depending on where we want to go, so the coast is, I think has like zone C as well.
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah, and there's different zones, and that costs different amounts of depending on which zone you travel in as well. So it's a bit like the underground as well.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have a monthly metro pass? We've been asked a question about how much it usually costs for a month metro travel. Can anybody shed any light on that?
I'm not very sure about the monthly, but there are some day saver tickets that I know, and the one which covers the whole of the system for A, B and C zones, that's £5 per day, and you can just travel unlimited.
Yeah, I've used the monthly pass because I had some friends living in Gateshead, which is zone A, and that was about £25 per month, so it was not expensive at all compared to buses, for example, which might be about £38. So it's roughly one half. Much cheaper to use a metro. In zone A at least.
Yeah. And one thing that you can actually do if you are thinking about maybe using the metro and the bus, there's something called a one ticket, which is a combination of the bus and the metro, so you can pay a monthly fee. I'm not entirely sure what that is, you may have to look online, but that's a good way to combine both methods of travel if you think you might use both. So somebody asked the question, which airport is closest to Newcastle? We do have our own airport, Newcastle International Airport, and it's about 20 minutes on the metro from the city centre, so it's really easily accessible. One train and you're there. And does anybody have any experience of the airport that they could shed some light on?
Yes, so I always, like before I used to travel to London, I think, but Newcastle Airport is a totally different experience. Like it's just the perfect, not too big, not too small, and there is no massive immigration queues or anything, so it's really easy to even, like once you're out of a flight, I think maximum 15-20 minutes and you're just out. So I feel like it's really good, and even the services and everything, it's quite relaxed, everything. No hassle.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I would absolutely recommend if you can fly directly into Newcastle. It would be a lot better especially if you're an international student, then you won't have to go through the long immigration queues at Heathrow, which is just absolutely horrendous. So I always try to fly directly into Newcastle wherever possible.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. So, do students get transport discounts? Most transport providers do offer a student discount, and obviously you'll have your student card from the university, so when you go to buy a ticket, usually if you want a student discount you have to buy a ticket in person, but yes, most transport providers do offer reduced rate transport tickets for students. And travelling around the UK by train, Javier's asked the question, so are there discounts? I can answer that question. Yes, there are. We do offer a rail card in the UK for under 25s, and this usually offers you around 30% off a standard rail fare ticket. And travelling around the UK by train is fairly easy. It's probably one of the more expensive methods of travel, but if you're going on one of the main routes on the East Coast Main Line, you can probably get a return to London for possibly about £40 or £50, depending on when you book. It's advisable that you book in advance if you're planning a trip. They normally release the tickets about 3 months in advance, and it's advisable that you try to book then if possible. But a rail card's definitely a great investment if you think you're going to be travelling long distances quite frequently.
Yeah, I just want to add about the rail card at
Yeah, of course.
25. So if you're postgrad and you're older than 25, you can still apply for that rail card. So all you have to do is to get your school to sign these forms stating that you are a postgraduate student. So even if you're 30 years old, you can still get that rail card and get those discounts. Yeah.
That's great, I did not know that.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to know. So let's talk a little bit about, so we talked about food, let's maybe talk about shopping in general. And as I mentioned before, the city centre is just over the road, so you've got a wealth of shops sort of right there when you need them, particularly if you need to get something during the day or before you go home after a day of lectures or whatever. So maybe Dan, where would you recommend that people go shopping for clothes and other things that aren't food?
Yeah, so as you said, we're so close to the city centre. We're about a 5-minute walk from Eldon Square, which is the big shopping centre in the middle of the city. That's got all the big chains that you'd want. It's also got Northumberland Street, which is outside it, and that's a big row of shops as well. Alongside that, there's also loads of different shops all around the city that you can go. There's cool little boutique shops that you can buy clothes from. And then obviously there's a big Into shopping centre called Metro Centre in Gateshead. You can get there. I don't think you can get there on the metro. I think you can get there by train. It's about a 5-minute journey on the train to get there. Or you can drive, of course, if you want to. That's got all the massive chains. It's got even more than Eldon Square in the city centre. Some of them are duplicated, so some of them are in the Metro Centre, and they're also in Eldon Square as well. There's loads of different shopping centres all around the North Tyneside area as well. So there's Silverlink shopping park, which is near the coast. And there's loads of different places that you can go which have high streets all around the northeast as well, so there's quite a lot of places to go. No matter what you're buying, you'll always find it in the city.
Great, thanks Dan. So you guys all came from overseas, so when you first arrived, do you have any recommendations of what kind of clothes people should bring with them, whether it's maybe cheaper to buy them when they get here, maybe city?
Yeah, I would recommend if you're coming from a tropical country like I do not bring winter clothes, or at least do not buy winter clothes back home. Rather buy them here because it's a lot cheaper and the quality is so much better. And you'll also get an idea of how thick or how thin you want your winter clothes to be, because you get an idea of how the weather is going to be. So I would recommend do not bring winter clothes. Maybe just bring a few items of clothing, because there's always great sales here. So you don't want to end up buying a lot of clothes and to add on to your current collection of clothes. So I would say just bring a few items, because there's always great shopping here. You can buy really cheap clothes at Primark, which is great. For example, I bought a t-shirt at Primark for like £250, which is excellent. And if you are, for example, if you're a Muslim like me and you want to wear, for example, long dresses and stuff, I usually go online for those. So they're great online sites, and they offer free delivery to the UK residences. So I usually do that as well. So I'm trying to cut down on my shopping, but yeah, so you can go shopping online very easily, and you can also just go to Northumberland Street and Eldon Square and have great deals.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Anything else from you girls?
I would definitely recommend to invest in a good jacket. That's a must, and always have an umbrella on hand. Like for most of us, especially like from where we come from, We don't. We have a specific monsoon season, so that's the only 4 months when it rains. But in UK, that's not the case.
No, could rain at
So,
any time.
yes, it could rain any time, which is it's not going to rain as bad as it does back home, but you still need to have an umbrella. So if that is what you can get, just get an umbrella.
So just to add on to that, rather than an umbrella, I've given up on umbrellas because the wind just blows off your umbrella. So I just got a raincoat, and then that's perfect. You don't need to worry about anything flying off. Because the winds here are really, really strong.
Yeah, they can
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. So
Great, thank you. Do you agree, Emma?
I do agree. In my case, I had travelled in North Europe before, so I had some quite warm clothes. So I came here a little bit prepared. I knew what the difference would be, especially in September, October time, when in Greece we have summer, and here it started raining and being a bit chilly.
Yeah.
So I was expecting it, and I brought also a raincoat, quite warm, from the inner side. So that kept me warm up until probably early October. But then I bought really good coats here, really thick coats that I couldn't probably find in Greece in these prices at least. And I would also recommend you don't buy any shoes, any expensive shoes from back home if you come from really warm places, because here you can find boots with fur inside, really warm both clothes and shoes. So just invest in a good pair of shoes, but be prepared to buy some new here because of the cold.
Okay, thank you. So Lena's asked, are there any other shopping areas rather than the city centre where there are cultural shops and things like that? Have you guys had any experiences of travelling maybe a bit further afield?
So like in Fenham, there are quite a few shops which have like Arabic clothes and Indian clothes, if that's what they're interested in. And they do have like good collection but the kind of clothes that is like proper from way back home. But other than that, like for the regular wear shopping, I think city centre is the best bet. Yeah.
Probably what I would maybe recommend if you're looking for something that's a bit more of an experience and a day out, we've got places like Alnwick, Corbridge, Hexham that are a little bit further afield, but you can get to via train, and they've got some lovely little shops and book shops and cafes and sort of gift shops and things like that. So if you're looking for a day out, there are quite a few places within an hour of the city centre that maybe would be nice to go for a weekend if you want to get out of the city and explore a little bit more. Somebody's just asked, where is the nearest swimming pool? Does anybody swim in the city? Can they?
I believe there's a swimming pool. There's a sports centre in Fenham. Yeah, there's one swimming pool there.
I think also the one in Northumbria Sports Centre, which is just off the Northumberland Street.
Yeah.
That's
And there's one in Biker as well. There's a library service and a swimming pool with gym from a company that runs a few gyms around the city. So you can subscribe into the gym or the pool and then visit all these different places. There's one in the city centre and there's one in Biker as well. I live in Sandefjord, it's next to Biker. It took like 5-10 minutes to get there. And we start now. I don't really prefer it for the winter, to be honest, but it's lovely when you swim in the summer.
Great, thank you. So, obviously when you first come to university, you've got a lot of things to buy, like duvets and kitchen items and things like that. Where would you recommend, Dan, that they would go to buy these kinds of things?
So I don't know if any of you have heard of it. It's called IKEA. It's a big Scandinavian household. Is it household? Houseware
Yeah.
shop. It's absolutely massive. It's 2 stories in Gateshead. It's near the Metro Centre. You can get everything in one place. It's got a kitchen department, it's got a bedroom, it's got living room, kitchen, bathroom. It's got pretty much everything you'll need. It's got really cheap duvets, it's all at a reasonable price. There's also bargain, budget shops like B&M Bargains, that you've probably never heard of that until you've come to the UK. I don't know if you know if you guys have been there.
Not before coming here.
But they do really good duvets and stuff like that. Tesco, Asda, all the big supermarkets, they do all the bedding and things like that as well. So there's always somewhere to buy it. But IKEA is probably the best place to go for that kind of thing, yeah.
Great, thanks, Dan. Anybody else? Any experiences?
I think even in Primark they have really good and cheap bedding.
Yeah.
And because like when I first came in, so you're more inclined to get towards like city centre where you can just see everything and you don't have to travel too much or anything, because IKEA is a bit further off.
Yeah.
near Metro Centre. So I think it's more easier to find in the city centre or Primark or Wilko even.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wilkinson's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So even they have like good bedding over there. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Anything else, or are we all in agreement that they're probably
Yeah.
the best places to go to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually buy my household items from Wilko
Yeah.
and Best Bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Best Bargain is cheaper for certain things versus Wilko.
Mhm.
But yeah, but you can get everything in the city centre.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. So I think what we're basically saying is there's lots of choice. Ask around as well, ask people who
Yeah.
are already here, maybe where they got stuff, and quite often you can find previous students possibly selling some things that they're leaving behind, maybe not so much duvets, but kitchenware and things like that they may leave and they may sell at a cheap price because they basically want rid of it before they head home. So there's lots of different ways you can buy this stuff and lots of choice for where you can go. Right, so let's talk a little bit about when you first arrived and how you settled in and how you got used to the different teaching styles. So Dan, you came from sixth form to
Yeah.
undergraduate, and what was sort of the difference in teaching styles and things like that?
It was actually a bit less intense. I mean, I know it sounds really weird because you're paying so much for university and you go into university to get a really good education. But A level for me, I don't know, guys didn't do it. A levels for me were so stressful because you come from GCSE, which is before A levels, where it's quite easy. There's not much, there's not really that testing. You get to A level and it's really testing. They're looking to see if you're eligible to go to university and if you've got the skills that are required to go to university. So in a way, come to university was kind of a break. And you're actually learning from actual people who are researching in that kind of thing, who are writing books and going to conferences and all that kind of things. So you actually believe what you're being taught. Whereas when you're at school, you just kind of learn out of textbooks and stuff like that. But when you're at university, you're listening to someone actually say it and you're making notes on them as well.
Great, thank you. What about you guys coming from different educational backgrounds? Maybe start with Emma and we'll go along.
It was quite different for me. I came at Newcastle to study a postgraduate degree. It was a research degree, in fact. We had 3 months of taught courses, and then the rest of my degree was research in lab, so lab placement. In terms of the taught modules I had, it was quite different to what I had been used to. It was lecture style, so we had the lecturer being on the board and explaining things on the slide. So that was not the difference. The difference was in terms of the expectations. So there was a lot more individual study, which is expected for a postgraduate degree, of course. And also it was a lot more fast-paced. So we would change topics and learn about lots of different things within an hour, which again requires a lot of individual study to probably understand, get to know more about. So that was a huge difference for me, and also the facilities. The facilities in the UK are really, really good compared to some universities in Greece. I was not that lucky in my university back home, so I found a really huge difference here. And we've also got different facilities for different modules. So we had small lecture theatres for small groups, but really big ones for big groups of students. So that was really convenient to change the venue based on the needs of each module and each individual lecture. So that was really pretty much it.
Thank you.
For me, like the main selling point of studying in UK is like the studies here are more self-driven. So you know it gives you much more flexibility to actually get in depth of whatever you're really interested in. And so when I first came in here, I was actually later. I was late, and I was worried about it in the beginning that I'm going to miss a lot of induction and like the first introductory lectures of the few modules that I'm studying. But to my amazement, we have this recap recordings like for all the lectures. Recap recordings are like they literally record the whole lecture and put it online where you can just access it whenever. Even during exams, it just makes it so easier to study once. It's a good form of revision, I feel.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it was really easy. You can just go through the recap recordings if you miss out on any, or you can just, make an appointment with your lecturers or tutors, and they're more than happy to help you out with anything. If it's a more general, doubt or anything, you can just come into Kingsgate, and they will make their best to actually solve it. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And anything else from City?
Well, I didn't have lectures to go to specifically because I'm a PhD student in humanities and social sciences. So what we have is workshops for all the students in the faculty, but those are just workshops. not really lecture style, but the main learning that you do is sort of the research that you do, the one-on-one supervision you get with your supervisor. So those is very, very different from what you would get as an undergrad or as a master's student.
Yeah, great, thank you.
Can I add about the language?
Yeah,
Because
sure.
for non-native speakers, you might have this concern about whether you'll be able to understand other people. It's really easy, to be honest. When you come here, I know that Rashmi was a bit late, but when I came here before the induction, I had some time to get around the city, meet some people, talk to them, speak with them in English, in reality, not just for an exam or something, something similar that most people have when they're international students. So I started speaking in English every day, the whole day, and that was really, really good for myself and to be able to understand other people as well. Lectures were not that difficult. I was a bit lucky because most terms in medicine are Greek, so I could understand everything because they really resemble our own way of speaking our own terms in Greek. But even for people that have a good background in biomedical sciences, it's the same kind of terms in English as in most other languages, so you shouldn't find it so difficult. And then in terms of communication one-to-one, people normally understand that you come from a different country, so they do adjust the speed of their talk in your own needs, really, if they find it weird or if you struggle with that, so they do understand you, don't worry.
Great, thanks Emma. So somebody's asked a question about what a typical timetable might look like for classes. So if we maybe go for an undergrad perspective first, how many contact hours and days did you have?
Well, English is quite different to degrees like medicine and things like that, because it's not vocational at all, it's purely academic. So I was in the first year, I was only in like 6, 7, 8 hours a week. And it tended to go down over the years as well. So by third year, I was only in like 5 hours a week. That was 2 lectures and 2 seminars, and then like a computer ITT session, something like that. The rest of the time, I was expected to be in the library or in my own study space, something like that. Obviously, like I said, that's just English with different degrees. It differs on how much time a week you'll be in. So if I know for engineering, you're in quite a lot, and all the vocational degrees you're in quite a lot. Whereas the academic ones, the humanities ones, like English, history, stuff like that, you're in a lot less than you would be if you were on the vocational ones.
Thank you. And Emma, you previously did a master's in research. What was your typical timetable like?
So as I said, for the first 3 months we had lectures, and it was about probably 2 hours on average per day, 5 days per week, but it was a lot more individual study, as I said. So after the lecture I would definitely go to the library and go through the curriculum and all the things that we discussed, find more information about the things I was not aware of, because that's the way it really works in postgraduate degrees. But in terms of my PhD in research in biomedical science at the moment, we don't have any lectures, so it's all individual study and individual work in the lab. But that really varies. For example, with City, which is more probably theoretical subject.
And I actually did a master's in the business school at Newcastle University, and I would say my typical timetable was probably about 10 hours a week, and that was spread over a number of days. So I believe, casting my mind back, that I probably had something most days of the week, but it might have only been for an hour or 2 each day. So it really does vary on the degree you're doing, what subject it is, what level of study you're at. There's no typical timetable, I guess, is what we can basically say, but it does depend on your individual circumstances.
But can I add, like, it's very easy to access the timetable on the university apps and everything, and you can just get it all in emails and through Blackboard and all, which I was really fascinated by it. Like, okay, I can just see it, I would know. And also because it's very easy to track any changes.
Yeah.
Or anything in the
Can I
timetable.
also add about the MRes degree, because we're all doing different kinds of degrees, so different modules. So you can pick 3 modules, and 2 are for everyone. So 2 are common, and one of them is the MRes project, which is actually the lab-based placement that you're having for 6 months. But there's just one common course, and then you can pick the ones that you want based on the research interests. So everybody has a different timetable. don't look, especially for the MRS degree and MSc degrees, don't look for specific timetable for everyone, because we don't have one for everyone. Everybody can get a suited program, a suited schedule based on the lectures they want to attend.
Great, thank you girls. So we're getting a couple of questions in, going back to sort of living and the cost of living, about how much money you can live on per month, and whether £1,200 a month is enough to cover the cost of living, and that's from Soham. So maybe, what would you guys say about how much you've maybe spent? Maybe Dan, you could go for an undergrad perspective first, if you can remember.
I definitely didn't have 1,200
Yeah.
at university, so that is definitely going to cover. And you can probably have quite an extravagant lifestyle on £1,200 a month.
Yeah.
For me, I definitely didn't have that much. I can't remember how much I was exactly on, but I used to get about £100 a week from my part-time job that I had. And then I used to get my student loan, obviously, but that came in 3 big batches. So I definitely didn't have £1,200 a month. But you can live on a lot less than that in Newcastle. And you can live on a lot less than that in all around the UK as well. So it's just that it so happens that Newcastle is one of the cheapest cities in the UK at the moment. So.
Great, thank you. Anybody?
Yes, 1,200 definitely sounds like a very liberal figure. I think like even if you eat out very much or anything, I think aside of your accommodation cost and all, you cannot go over £300. That's a good upper limit.
Thank you. So we've got some more questions about the city in general and how you found it. What do you think about the city, and do you feel like it's a safe and welcoming city? Maybe Emma?
Definitely, yes. I haven't felt safer in my life, to be honest. In the sense that even when you have a lot of people around you, you don't feel so much pressure. You don't feel that people chat with you all the time. You don't feel embarrassed in any way. People up here in Newcastle are used to international cultures, and they tend not to push you over the limits when they don't know about your culture or about your religion or anything else. So I haven't felt pressure from anywhere, any kind of social pressure or social bullying that might exist in other countries, and I've felt it. I didn't feel like that in Newcastle. I've left, I've walked at night safely home, depending on which areas you pick and where do you live exactly. So it's really safe, even for a girl coming here all by herself. It's fine, and you get around the city quite easily. Short walk, so you shouldn't really worry about that.
Yeah. Can I ask, like, in terms of safety, there are a lot of taxi companies which I didn't know for a very long time that they do accept student cards. So like, if it's very late at night and if you're studying or even if you're out, just partying, but you can just get a cab and give them your student card, and then later on you can go in their office and collect the student card and pay the money. Even if you don't have money, you don't have to really worry about it, which is a very good thing. Like, you can, if sometimes you don't have cash, which I think it's a good option to explore.
Yeah, definitely. Right, so we've got a few more questions just before we finish. One of them is, how easy is it to get used to the Geordie accent? And in case you didn't know, my accent is a Geordie accent, although not a very strong one. So if you can understand me, you're getting there. But maybe ask the girls what they think about the Geordie accent and how easy it is.
Well, in the beginning, I really did struggle with the Geordie accent, to be honest. But as you start speaking, like, the key is don't give up. You will understand it. Like, and really, you are still okay. But if you can just do it, like, with time, it's really easier. And now I think I'm. It's like any other English to me.
Anybody else? Did you find it difficult or?
Yeah, I mean, the vowels are slightly different. For example, instead of saying duck, people say dock, and then or like instead of Sunday, it's like Sunday or something. And then so it's just a matter of knowing which vowels are different, how is it different, and
Yeah.
But I find that people here are very nice in terms of repeating themselves if you don't understand. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Like, I've really, when I was here, I just kept asking people to, I beg your pardon, I beg your pardon. And really, I'm just glad, like, no one's ever thrown a fit at me or been annoyed with me if I'm not understanding this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're very helpful that way.
Great.
Yes.
So, For the last question, I think we'll go for something for the whole panel, which will be, if you could name one place in the city that you would say is your favourite and that you would recommend that somebody would visit, what would it be? We'll maybe start with Dan.
Yeah. So for someone who likes football or soccer, as I do, St James's Park has got to be the favourite. Even if you don't support Newcastle United, which is obviously the big team here, it's such a great atmosphere on a Saturday afternoon. They've recently been promoted to Premier League as well, so it's an even better atmosphere all around the city. When you go to the game, it's like 50,000 attendances, so it's really good to go there. It's really cheap to get in there as well, and it's a massive stadium, so you'll have a great time. It's a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon as well.
Great, thanks Dan. What about you, Emma?
I'll mention something that most people won't mention, and that's the Castle Keep, which is the castle that gave the city its name, so Newcastle. And it's amazing there. It's really, really nice. I've got some really good photos there of the city and of the river mainly. So you can have an amazing view down to the river and the bridges, which is absolutely amazing. And it's good for history a little bit because they have a little bit of local culture there. So they've got some bazaars with local products. So it's really, really nice and for shopping if you're looking for something really traditional and made at Newcastle or Yorkshire area.
Thank you. Rashmi?
I'm gonna go with our sweet quayside.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just Google Newcastle images, I think the most that comes up is the Millennium Bridge, which is at Quayside. There are a lot of like nice pubs and restaurants and cafes around like the whole quayside. And like on Sundays there is a local Sunday market which does offer like a lot of world food and local shopping experiences, like from little stalls and things, which I really like. Every time I go to Quayside, it's a really good atmosphere there.
Great, thank you. And City, what about yourself?
For me, I like taking the metro out, going to Tynemouth.
Yeah.
So that's an excellent place. It's by the coast, and it's just very relaxing to go to the beach and enjoy the sea breeze, the ocean breeze, I don't know. And it's just a really, really nice place and very different from the city centre. So, and every weekend they have a farmers market as well at the metros at the station. So it's just a great place to relax. So.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you for all your questions. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for this afternoon. If you do have any more questions that you would still like us to ask, once this live stream ends, you are able to comment on the video. So if you want to leave any more questions in the comment section below, please do that and we'll reply to you all individually. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to the panel. And we hope to see you on campus soon. Thank you.
Thanks.